a rheumatologist in Beverly Hills told me I had exactly a year to live because the scleroderma, which is hardening of the collagen on my back, was getting so that it was going to harden my lungs. And the holistic world taught me how to heal myself and start to heal myself from the inside out.
Hey friends, welcome to Keep It Simple Sexy. I'm Christine Bullock, founder of KO Body Care, certified fitness trainer and mom of 2 little girls who's just trying to juggle it all and feel as good as possible. I'm so grateful that you're here. Now let's get started, sexy. Hi everyone, and welcome back to Keep It Simple Sexy. I'm your host, Christine Bullock. I'm going to get my name straight. And today's guest is an expert in whole body beauty from inside out, and she represents it 100%. Welcome, Shiva Rose.
Hi, thank you for having me here.
Hello, gorgeous. I'm so excited to have you here today. Not only are you a wealth of wisdom, but I love your skincare brand and I'm excited to dive into it. A little background on Shiva. She's a major bio. Shiva is the founder of the blog, The Local Rose, a blog focused spreading the message of beauty and luminosity to women in a way that is nourishing and nurturing. She's the author of the bestselling book, Whole Beauty, which I love this book, a guide to revitalize your life. And this book is full of practical daily rituals, nutrition, do-it-yourself beauty recipes, and lots of Ayurvedic practices to support your natural health and radiance from the inside out and the outside in. She's also the founder of Shiva Rose Skincare, a 100% toxic-free line of skincare for face, body, and hair, which is actually on my skin today, and a mommy of two beautiful girls, probably most importantly. Shiva, such a tremendous bio that you have and really an amazing mission to revitalize women's lives that you've learned through your own experiences. And I can't wait to jump into those practical tips for our listeners. But in your book, you mentioned that sometimes you have to go backwards to move forward. And so I really want to start there and why and where your mission for all of this and for health really began.
Well, first of all, thank you for seeing me, because that's ultimately what we all want, is to be seen and recognized. So thank you. That means so much to me. And yes, I think it took me a long time to learn that the feminine journey is circular. It's not linear. And that's sort of like when you think about everything in the world as far as the circular way, you know, even in geometric designs and just the Gaia itself, everything is round and circular, and the paths usually are like that rather than like a linear masculine path. And I think that's what I meant when I was saying sometimes we have to go backwards. It's almost like a step backwards, 2 steps forward. I've realized when healing myself from autoimmune issues and healing myself from heartbreak, divorce, healing myself from all the things that we sometimes go through in life, that was my process, was 1 step forward, 2 steps back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But it wasn't. So once I got the notion out of my head that it was just going to be a linear thing, then I eased into it. I surrendered, which is very much the feminine, surrendering, you know, to this mindset. So I think
I love that. I really love that, because I feel like in, you know, health education for all of my clients and for myself as well, it is something that you hear commonly where you get on a path, you make one mistake, you feel like that's it, final. And a lot of people quit and then maybe years later, start it up again. But if we gave ourselves that forgiveness and realized that it really isn't a linear journey, that we can continue to move forward and just learn from those mistakes. Like, they really are there to teach us. And that was one of the things that you mentioned in your book too. You just touched upon it, was that you had some autoimmune disorders that really potentially stopped you in your steps for that moment, and just kind of, recut your path to where you were heading and what your goals were. I know that I've been through a lot of autoimmune and hormonal issues. Do you want to get into that a little bit? Because I feel like also a lot of our listeners have been through this or going through it too.
I mean, but what I wanted to say about that one thing too, it's also timing, circular things. Sometimes things happen and learned the hard way that we have to trust the universe, and the universe knows better than us. And sometimes the timing is off. And once I've learned that too, which I'll tell you later about, like the journey with my book, you know, the first time around when I shopped it, it was like it was a bunch of no's. And then exactly 3 years later, it was a bunch of yeses. So I really learned too that that's another thing with the feminine. You have to surrender sometimes and take a step back and listen. And it's timing. Sometimes it's just timing. But yes, the autoimmune issues really are what propelled me into the holistic world, because when I was young, when I had my first daughter, I was 25. And I could not recover after giving birth to her. And at 26, I was diagnosed with lupus, scleroderma, and rheumatoid arthritis, and told that I had a year to live. Basically, a doctor a rheumatologist in Beverly Hills told me I had exactly a year to live, because the scleroderma, which is hardening of the collagen on my back, was getting so that it was going to harden my lungs eventually. You know, luckily I'm a rebel, and luckily I have a piece of me that always questions everything. And I've been like this my whole life. And I said, no, that's not my narrative to this doctor in Beverly Hills. I said, no, I'm not going to die in a year. I just had a baby. No. So I knew that wasn't my path somehow, somewhere. And I felt horrible. I mean, it wasn't, you know, I felt I was tired. I was achy. My hair was falling out. I had dark circles under my eyes. I was just like I couldn't understand why I was so in such a horrible place physically. But then I found a holistic Sikh doctor, and he told me he would make me feel better, or get me to feel better within a year. So it was like taking those two drastic scenarios. And not that I'm against allopathic medicine. I think allopathic medicine is incredible for dire situations, you know, heart surgery, and, you know, trying to figure, you know, if you break a limb, God forbid, or something like that. But I do feel like there is a discrepancy with healthcare where they don't really look at the preventative measures. And the holistic world taught me how to heal myself and start to heal myself from the inside out, rather than just take a bunch of steroids, which I have done, and take a bunch of allopathic medicines. I learned to actually cure or heal myself from the inside out, which is a longer process. You know, it's not so easy, but it's much better. And that's exactly what my skincare line too is about. It's like the long process, the internal into the outward world.
I mean, absolutely. You've touched upon so many things here, but one of the biggest points, I think, is that, you know, our healing process, like the first step is to know that we need healing. I don't know if that's physically, if that's emotionally, you know, if we understand it's a general feeling, or very specifically what it is that we need to heal. But that it's great to have tons of wisdom, I think, you know, like to have it from both sides and both doctors, because I've been there as well and been given the options, that we get to feel like we've made that full decision. But that, you know, I really believe in that natural route, at least for major support to get you back, because you don't want to be reliant on the medications the full time, but that it takes time and it takes consistency. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things. In speaking about consistency, you basically, you've transformed this, and you talk about rituals in your book, and your whole book is basically about rituals. And what I love is that when our daily lives, we just go about it, right? And it's like, I got to take my meds. Or maybe it's your supplements, or maybe it's like applying the oils to your skin and your face, and you're just hustling along, especially us moms out there. And you break it down and you say, the simplest and biggest way you can honor yourself and enhance your well-being is through these rituals. So what is the difference between just doing things and turning them into a healing ritual?
I think all it is setting an intention, you know, setting an intention, or having an inner prayer, an inner monologue, you know, like when you take that oil and you think about all the, you know, beautiful you know, fats in that oil and the beautiful essential oils, and you think about rubbing it onto your skin, maybe have the intention of, I'm mothering myself today. You know, that it could be as simple as that. You know, like I need a hug today. I need to be mothered. Like make this oil is lavishing me in a mother's hug. I mean, sometimes it can be as simple as that. Or today we have the full moon on the autumn equinox. Like for me, the full moon is all about clearing and cleansing. So for me, like when I dry brush tonight, when I'm dry brushing before my bath, I'm going to think about, okay, I'm releasing everything that this cycle, this lunar cycle, any negativity I've accumulated, any negative thoughts, any toxic energy that has been coming towards me or my family. I'm going to use this opportunity to release it. And it's those little slight frames, because it doesn't take any more energy, right? It doesn't take any more time. It's just sort of like setting your mind and thinking about that. And that's really the difference. And I think it's remarkable. I mean, we forget that we're spiritual creatures, and it's all energy. Everything is energy. So that little mindset can really shift things, I've noticed.
I know, I'm sure there's so much science to that. And I can even see that where living in the skincare industry myself, and for so many years, and the fitness industry, I feel like you hear women applying every expensive cream or like millions of layers of it, doing 3 hours of workouts or, whatever it may be. But if we could simplify it and maybe apply one oil and really just put that intention to it, the way that is reducing our cortisol levels, creating these intentions and these beliefs about our own health, beauty, everything would actually do more than spending that much more money and, utilizing it. I love that. I will tell you, I actually put my body oil on last night, and I took that moment. Usually I'm exhausted, and I still was last night, and I just want to jump in bed, but I just put it on, and I really just appreciated that time and thought about that health and that nurturing. And there is something to it. It really just calmed the mind too, much more.
You brought up the nervous system, and that's so important right now. I think we're living in a time, and that being connected to our phones, it puts us in this space of flight or flight, between all the news of the world and what's happening. And again, that's a very masculine space too. The how many likes did we get? How many this or that, or, and going back to like the idea of, nourishing and taking a step away from that. And one thing that I've started to do is thank my feet, like at night when I'm in bed, just grab my body butter and put some on the soles of my feet and just give thanks to these feet. I mean, when you think about these feet, they're so narrow and they're carrying your whole body, plus all the other things you're carrying onto yourself. These feet, which are our souls, on the earth. So I've been taking a moment just to, in an Ayurvedic practice, just giving thanks to the bottoms of my feet, for carrying me all day. It's remarkable.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. And I actually do that. I haven't done the cream, so I appreciate that. I'm going to have to add that. And I'm sure my nail person will want me to do that for my calluses as well. But I do that when I'm practicing my yoga, or sometimes when I'm meditating. I just kind of do, I don't even know that much about reflexology, but I'll do that as like my appreciation. I always think that these poor little feet, they carry us everywhere.
They're so narrow and small when you think about it. The human body is remarkable. Wait, what sign are you though, before we go further? Because I'm curious, I have to know.
I'm a Capricorn Scorpio, I believe. So Capricorn, whatever the first one is. I'm born in January, and then Scorpio moon or whatever it is.
Oh, me too. Scorpio moon.
Oh, cool.
Okay, I like that. Yeah, and the Capricorn. Because you were saying about sticking to something, and I think I'm an Aquarius, and so I do stick to things, and Capricorns too. We're probably very rigid in some ways, and yet our moon signs are Scorpio, which is all depthy, watery, emotional. So it's
totally.
We have the linear kind of pragmatic, rational, very practical nature, which is our sun signs. And then our moons are like all romantic, passionate, emotional. So
yeah, I could never figure myself out younger when everyone's like Capricorn, it's hardworking, it's loyal, it's this. I'm like, but there's this whole creative sense. And now, yes, I totally get it. We're going to get into these moon cycles because I personally want to take your moon course. Aww. But first, you touched upon, I really want to understand much more about the moons. And I think there's something so strong about it. I mean, you have to think that in the sense of an entire universe out there, and just the energy that's there. But first, you touched upon this, and you keep talking about it, masculine energy versus feminine energy. And there's a couple places in your book, Whole Beauty, where you mention sensuality. I mean, this is called Keep It Simple Sexy, but that's really what I meant by sexy too, was just what makes you feel beautiful, vital, energetic, amazing. And so first, how do you describe the sensuality? And you mention women have lost their sensuality in today's fast-paced, stress-filled life, also taking over so many of, I mean, men's jobs, but we've had to take over a lot of roles, I should say.
Mhm.
And so how can we gain that sensuality back? So first, what is sensuality to you, though?
Well, I think sensuality is definitely part of the divine feminine. And sensuality could be, I mean, literally, like they say, stop and smell the roses. Do you stop and smell the roses? Because I make an effort. If I walk by a beautiful rose, it's my duty to stop and smell this beautiful thing. It's just beauty for the sake of beauty. And that's very much about the feminine, being for me, I don't think I can be creative unless I'm in touch with my sensuality and my feminine. I know I'm not being creative. It's so funny because I realized today I went to my studio and I actually created this new bath salt. And I was like, oh, yes, it's because I have not been in my feminine. That's taken me this long because I've been like, focusing on work and getting everybody fed and doing this and that and being on my phone too much. And I realized I really do have to make a concentrated effort to get back into my feminine, which is going into nature. For me, it's water and nature. When I feel myself getting dry and like critical and pessimistic and not creative, not in the flow, I know, okay, I got to take a time out and go. And, I used to live in California. I used to be able to go to the ocean, but now I live in Texas. So I have to go seek it out. I have to go to the river. And it's almost like my medicine. I'm like, okay, my body needs to be in the feminine. And for me, that means having no structure, no timeline. It's about dreaming. It's about being free. It's about sitting in a waterfall, at a riverbank and just being and listening, looking at the birds and the flowers. And if you feel like you're losing touch with your sensuality, just do the simple thing of like touching your hand and like feeling what that feels like. You'd be surprised like how numb we become in the modern world. It's truly like remarkable. But I know sometimes I'll just sit in the car and just feel my hand and be like, oh, what does that feel like? That feels just my fingertips along my hand. Like we sort of lose sight of those qualities, I think, of being human and feminine and pleasure. A lot about the feminine too is about receiving. I practice something called tea ceremony where I do this tea in silence. It's a meditation. And whenever I do it for mothers, the first thing they do is cry, or women, they cry.
I'll tell you why, because no one does anything for us. Or it's not exactly what brings us back to, like, flowers are beautiful. It doesn't necessarily bring us back to that. Taking a moment of hideout in your room, yes, can assist, but there is something to being around other women and receiving that simple gift, a simple gift where I hear you. Yeah.
A vessel, right? We are made to receive. I mean, we're made to receive the phallus. We're made to receive. We're basically a vessel. We're a vessel for birthing. We're a vessel, and if we're not receiving, we're not really honoring that idea of that. That nature kind of wants us to. And receiving is very hard for me too. Believe it or not, it's a very hard thing, and that's why tea ceremony. I love giving it and I love receiving it, because all you have to do is just drink. I mean, it's remarkable when someone fills your vessel, your cup, with tea, and all you have to do is drink it in silence. I mean, it's literally incredible how just that simple action can
Is that all you do then? Because it is a time of meditation you mentioned. So you just basically serve tea, and there's a picture of you guys having a tea ceremony in your book. I'll look for it. But you just kind of provide it, and then are you guys just sit there and meditate, or is it a time sometimes where you have a discussion?
Sorry, I'm putting my hair up because it's so dang hot in this. It's so tea. It's a practice that I learned with a tea group called Global Tea Hut. That was my tea house in California when I lived in my house in LA, in Los Angeles. And
It's gorgeous.
I ended up having the luxury of going to China and studying the practice in China and visiting the organic farms and having tea meditations on the tops of mountains in China. It was truly a remarkable experience. And there's a tea community. It's globalteahut.com or livingtea.net. And there's a whole tea world. And yes, there's a meditation and there's teas, and it's something I do every day. And hopefully someday I can do it for you.
Oh, yes. I'll come to Austin just for that. But I think there's so much. I mean, I have been on exactly what you're feeling, where you're depleted, you're dry. It is about the connecting to nature. It's funny. I stop with my daughters and we sniff roses, and I always feel like the silly girl with the kids sniffing the flowers, stopping to smell the roses when people walk by. But it is something that's so simple that really rejuvenates me. And that connecting to earth. The Keep It Simple Sexy podcast is brought to you by KO Body Care. By now, you guys know I'm all about simple wellness habits. And the most important habit, in my opinion, is eating lots of fruits and veggies to boost your immunity and feel energized and youthful. The only problem, if you're as busy as I am, you're probably eating a lot of meals on the run. So I'm going to fill you in on my favorite hack. KO Body Care's clean, plant-based supplements. As the founder and CEO of KO Body Care, we spent so long getting these formulas perfect, and our customers are just as obsessed with them as I am. Our bestseller right now is our Vital Green Superfood Powder Drink Mix. Every scoop contains 25 superfoods that optimize your cellular health and performance. There's organic greens, antioxidant-rich berries, curcumin and immune complex, and so much more. Unlike most green powders, this one doesn't taste like grass, guys. It's got a sweet berry flavor that even my kids love. Seriously, my oldest asks for it every day. Vital Green Superfood Powder is a staple in my pantry and in the KO collection, and when you try it, you'll know why. Order yours today at kobodycare.com and make sure to use your special code KISS20 for 20% off your first purchase. You had to start from an earthier place, burn down the house, and rebuild it. But you talk about in that connecting some of those rituals to nature and focusing on the rhythm of your cycles, to the seasons of nature, just to bring you closer to the natural world. And I always say in nutrition, it's something that I think is so vital for our health and just vital for the environment, and so easy, so much cheaper because you're living off of the seasons. But how are we going to connect to nature? How can anybody from, Timbuktu to California here, how are they taking these rituals and taking them outside? Like, what are your top tips?
I always think, even if you live in an apartment building and you have a balcony, or even if you don't have a balcony, you can have plants. You can grow plants. Plants are our connection to Gaia and to the sun and the earth. And you can do things like pour your moon blood into the plant or your tea leaves into the plant. That plant, play music for that plant. It could be as simple as that. And then if you have that luxury of living, anywhere, if in New York, when I lived in New York, I'd go to the Central Park all the time, or, I think you can seek it out. And I'm sure, too, you can seek out organic farmers, because I definitely believe that we eat organically and try to get glyphosate out of our diets. That's going to help tremendously. That's going to clear your pituitary gland, which will allow you to have a stronger intuition. I truly believe all that. I do believe we got to detox ourselves and grounding, walk on the earth. All these things are free too, by the way. It doesn't cost anything. Yeah. Walk barefoot, because most of us are depleted of minerals. And when you actually walk on the ground, you're getting the electromagnetic field in your soles of your feet. You're connecting. You're enriching your microbiome. There's so many benefits. Sorry for the noise.
That's okay. Hey, we are all living where we can right now. We're just really happy you're here.
Thanks.
So, okay, somewhat last but not least, the moon cycles. You mentioned moon blood, first of all, but you also have a moon cycle course. Can you tell us what that's all about and what we'll get out, why you follow these moon cycles?
Well, I don't know about you, but I had to raise myself. I mean, I love my parents, but I don't think my parents were really my parents as much as I would have liked them to be. So when I was suffering from serious heartbreak and health issues, I started to go back to the natural world. And so I went to Mother Earth and Father Sky and the moon. And this, I felt like they were giving me the love that I had always needed. And this, I know it sounds far-fetched, but it really helped me heal myself and connect to myself. And we are children of the earth after all. And so once I started to like connect to the moon, and then I started doing research and I was like astounded. I mean, for example, the moon, at one time, our calendars, we were all ruled by the moon. And then the patriarchy came in and made it a sun calendar, but they kept the 28-day cycle, which is a woman's cycle, 28 to 30 days still in our calendar. I mean, that's why 28 to 30 days, our calendars, that's like remarkable. It's left over.
Mind blown. Yes.
Things like that, where you're like, oh my gosh, we really were a matriarchal society at one time. And another fascinating thing, like for example, the moon was actually a piece of the earth, they think, that got hit by a meteor and then shattered. And that's almost like our sister planet. There were all these things that really resonated with me with the moon. And then I realized too, that we actually need the electroviolet rays of the moon. We don't have it. We're all deficient. But at one time we would get that. At one time we lived outside and slept outside and received that vitamin D from the moon. So all these things, when you start putting them together, you're like, oh my gosh, the moon is like this thing that I have not utilized in my life. And it's really, it syncs up your cycle. I mean, I'm older. I'm much older than you, and I'm still getting a period every month. And I know it's because of my connection to the moon, and it just, my moon cycle just came last night. I'm like, oh my God. And then there's a whole nother thing in my course, which it talks about if you bleed on the full moon or if you bleed on the new moon, that has a whole meaning to itself too. And if you're not bleeding, by the way, you still are connected to the moon, especially the feminine. We are hormones. I mean, if the waves of the ocean are directed by the moon, how can we not be? We're over 78% water. So of course we're going to move, our bodies are going to move with the moon as well as the ocean. So there's just all these fascinating things. And my course is historical, factual, and then it will have, rituals and tonics and recipes. And I threw everything in there.
I'm in. I'm going on. It's on her website. It's on the local Rose. I bet you could probably find it on shivarose.com too, where her skincare resides. Is there one small tip people can take for full moons tonight or whenever you're listening to this, whenever the next full moon is? If
you have crystals, charge the crystals.
Put them out. Okay.
And then another beautiful thing to do is you take a bowl of water and you capture the moon's reflection in the water. And then you can say a mantra or give it a blessing, and then you can drink the water. It's actually
cool. I'm going to do that with my daughter, my older daughter, my toddler. But she loves all this stuff and to learn. And, it's like whatever she can take with her right now. I feel like the little things. I saved a bird this week. We saved a butterfly this morning. I'm like, it seems like it's a weird couple of days for us. We're saving all these little bugs and insects and animals.
Beautiful.
Okay. So I feel like, I hope, we've hit on so much stuff here, from turning the simplest of moments into a healing ritual. And what it's really about is just being in touch with that moment. And I don't like to call it a positive vibe, but it is really putting that positive intention into what you are doing, believing that what you are doing, will come to fruition in that sense. To connecting with nature. I love that. Just going barefoot. That's something that I really need to do more, walk around, and I can see myself just grounding myself through that, even getting in touch with our own sensuality again. I am truly at the moment right now of a dry spell because I've been so busy with everything. So I so understand that in the sense of creativity and when and where you get to, find that again. And maybe that's a good sign for everybody out there when you feel like you are barren, dry,
Yes.
empty, right? You have no more to give even to your kids if you're not creating products and this and that, that it's time to get back to yourself. And that I don't want to say that there's nothing bad about being central. I feel like women nowadays have had to take over these other jobs. And so we're almost like we've stepped away from that femininity and that sensuality. And it's time to be able to have both. We can handle it all and still be that feminine nature. And that's what I loved. One of the major things that I loved in your book. Okay. So I could go on with you forever.
Thank you.
And we'll have to have you back. But what are the top 3 rituals you cannot live without? Maybe one for total healing, one for hair, one for skin, whatever it is. But your top 3 rituals you can't live without.
I'm good. My battery's going to run out too, so it's perfect timing.
Okay, well, we're almost done.
Okay, so I would say a spoonful of ghee. When you talk about being dried out, hopefully you eat dairy. But in Ayurvedic tradition in India, the reason why the women are so juicy and their hair so luscious and their skin so juicy and plump is ghee. So even just a spoonful of ghee, and if you are vegan, then there's other things you can do. So another oil, avocado oil or olive oil. So I would say oils. That's something I had to relearn. That's probably number 1. Number 2 is baths, or if you have a shower. I feel like water again is about the feminine, and like tonight is a full moon in Pisces, which is the feminine. So for me, bath rituals are very important. They totally rejuvenate me. And I put on a mantra. Usually I try not to be on my phone. And let me see, number 3. Well, you brought it up earlier, being around other women. It actually changes your DNA. They say that it literally changes your DNA. And I forget too, when I become antisocial, I realize that, again, I'm going into the masculine. The feminine wants to be around community, people. And
yeah. Both of those are so me.
But I think we need it. And I've forgotten, I mean, with COVID, and I went to a friend's baby shower the other day, and all these people gathering and dancing and singing, and it was Texas, no masks, so everybody was just like loving love, and and I was crying, and I realized because I was like starved for community, and I felt like it actually was a boost to my immune system. I left feeling like, whew, so much better, So I think we forget that, and I think we have to figure out how to do it with COVID, and maybe find ways to be with our sisters, because I think that's important. It's really crucial. It's
so true. I mean, through COVID for sure. And in working from home and kids, it's so much easier for me to stay at home than to get out there and be with your friends. And we're nervous about certain things and keeping family safe and all that. Yeah. But it's just those moments with your friends and the people that you love, especially women. It just really, it recharges you. All right. Last one. This one's really quick and then we'll end. Speed round. I have 2 questions for you. Breakfast or fasting? Do you eat breakfast or do you fast for a couple hours in the morning?
Well, I do fast for a little bit now. I do my tea, and then I love coffee. So I do coffee with raw milk, and then I fast for a couple hours.
Me too. It's good on my digestion. It feels good. Yeah. Desert island skincare product. One thing that you would have to have.
Glow Bomb, probably my Glow Bomb. Because the Glow Bomb. Glow Bomb. You can put it on your face, you can put it on your hair, you can put it on the Glow Bomb is like, especially on a deserted island, or just, it's hot and dry.
That product is really great. It doesn't matter the temperature. I feel like, it's not too heavy, but it's so moisturizing. I love too, your vitamin C, your citrus rose brightening serum.
Thank you. You're like, I love that. And I'm like wondering why because it's a gentle vitamin C. It's not.
It is. And I need that. I've had melasma. It really works. It helped to brighten it up post-pregnancy too. And then I didn't even spray it yet. And it smells so good. It's your Shiva Rose Radiant Rose Water.
Yes, that is, I love that you get it, because some people will email me and go, there's some weird stuff. I'm like, no, it's alive. It's got spirulina and algae and hula, and it's got things in it because it's alive. You want it alive. You want it to it's like a super vitamin. So thank you.
Yes. It's natural. It doesn't have all the other things in it that hide those kind of things too. I absolutely get it. Love the whole line here. We picked it up. We have your whole beauty book. And so anybody that's interested, you can see I have, all my little notes in here from before, in beauty rituals, more do-it-yourself, her recipes, more about your femininity, all of that. You can find it in Whole Beauty. And I just want to thank you for being with us today. And I want to end with one of your quotes, actually, because it was so beautiful. But it says, beauty does not penetrate beyond the first physical layer, the face, but beauty that comes from being nourished and balanced spiritually, emotionally, and physically radiates from the eyes, the hair, and every pore. Ritual helps us to create a beautiful face and a beautiful life. Truly, you completely represent that, Shiva, from taking, learning from your experiences and then taking all of that wisdom and all that time you've dedicated in your education for yourself and sharing that with everybody else. So thank you so much for running, doing what you could to come on here today. And you can find more at Shiva Rose on Instagram. The Local Rose is her website. Shiva Rose is her website for her skincare. It's been such a pleasure, Shiva. I mean, we are sisters, I can tell. And we'll have to spend some more time. We'll have her on again. Thank you for joining us today on Keep It Simple Sexy. I'm your host, Christine Bullock. I hope that you are able to make one single positive change to your daily rituals after listening to today's podcast. And you can visit the notes of today's podcast for other bulleted highlights of actionable steps you can apply to your daily health routines. If you feel like you've learned too much today, I'm going to outline it for you. Don't forget to subscribe to us. And if you loved today's episode, please leave a review and share it with a friend who needs to hear it. Have questions you need answered? Text me at 1-310-361-8697. Make sure you're following me on social at Christine Bullock, and have a healthy, happy week. See you next time.